Hi everyone, my name is Kenneth Hulugalla and I'm a fourth-year PhD candidate in biomedical engineering at the University of Mississippi. I was lucky enough to be awarded the PhRMA Foundation Predoctoral Fellowship in Drug Delivery. Growing up in Sri Lanka, three of my grandparents were unfortunately diagnosed with cancer and then passed away from the disease at different time points in my childhood. And I still remember asking my mom, when they were in palliative care at the time, why aren't they at the hospital? And her distinctly telling me this oversimplified but gentle answer that, there's not a cure for this at the moment. The most we can do for them is kind of spend time with them while they're here. And, even as a kid, that didn't quite sit right with me. So I always realized that I wanted to do something from that point onward in the medical field. My PhRMA Foundation funded research focuses on making cancer treatments more personalized. When you inject a nanoparticle or a tiny drug carrier into a patient's bloodstream, proteins from the blood immediately coat that particle's surface. And then this coating becomes the particle's new identity. And it determines whether this drug or particle reaches its intended target, which is a tumor, or gets cleared by the immune system. The problem that exists is that this coating is different in each patient. So your blood is not the same as mine, which is why the exact same treatment can work in one patient but fail in the other. Most drugs today use synthetic materials designed to hide them from the immune system, but over repeated treatments, our body's immune system is smart enough to recognize these synthetic materials and clear them out of the body. So our approach is different, where we're using sugar-based natural materials, which more closely resemble materials that our body recognizes. So the hope is that the body will tolerate them better, especially over repeated treatments. And the bigger goal is personalization. So we're studying how individual patient's blood interacts with these sugar-coated materials, looking for patterns that can predict which version of the treatment will work best for which patient. So what I love about research, I feel like, is the discovery aspect of it. I almost feel like a detective doing the work that I do. When you're doing PhD research, you're oftentimes the first person to work on that, the first person to see that result, which is also kind of, surreal. And another thing that I love about my research is that it isn't abstract. I work with real patient samples from women who have cancer, and these aren't hypothetical people, and that's something that I always keep in mind, that this connection to actual patients is what drew me to this field, and it's what keeps me going on the days that nothing goes right. People picture this neat process where you want to investigate something, you have an idea, you think of an experiment, you get a result, you publish the data. But the reality is just so much messier. You can have loads of trial and error, loads of optimization. And I've had experiments fail for weeks because of the wrong acidity in a solution. When people come and ask me who don't work in science, what did you discover this week? It's very hard to explain to them that, hey, it doesn't work like that. So I'm a big believer of work-life balance, and I'm a big believer of also having hobbies. My main sport right now is pickleball. I was actually introduced to it through my PI, and it's become like a genuine addiction. I play pickleball at least 3 to 4 times a week. The other thing I like to do is also travel. We try to explore as much of the US while we're here. And coming from Sri Lanka, I have a goal in mind before I leave to actually cover at least the contiguous 48 states. The advice that I'd give my younger self right now is to not wait until you feel ready and feel confident. So early in my career, I hesitated on a lot of opportunities because I felt like I needed more experience or more credentials before I was qualified. Moving from Sri Lanka to the US for a PhD, applying for competitive fellowships like the PhRMA Foundation grant, submitting my first research paper, none of these things at the time felt like I was ready for when I did them. But I did them anyway, and I feel like that's where growth happened. I haven't exactly looked at a specific career path yet, whether that's industry, academia, or something in the middle. But I'm intentionally keeping that open because I think the best career decisions come from real exposure to those fields, not like premature commitment. And what I know for certain right now is wherever I end up, I want to be close to the boundary between this works in the lab and this helps a real patient.